Welcome to my channel, Real Mission Stories. Tonight, I want you to listen closely. This isn't just another tale about bravery or uniformed heroes. It's about respect, redemption, and the quiet kind of courage that doesn't ask to be seen. What happened one stormy night in Virginia Beach will remind you that strength often hides in the most ordinary faces. So stay until the end, because this story isn't about violence. It's about what comes after it. The rain that night came down in relentless sheets, blurring headlights and turning the streets into rivers of gold and silver reflections. Neon lights from nearby bars flickered weakly through the downpour, their colors stretching across the slick asphalt. Inside a lonely roadside diner, the kind that smells of old coffee and fried food, a woman sat quietly in the corner booth. Her gray hoodie was soaked at the shoulders. A faint steam rose from her cup as she stirred it absently, lost somewhere far beyond the rain-streaked glass. Her name was Sarah Matthews. To anyone passing by, she was just another woman escaping the storm quiet, unremarkable, maybe a little sad. But behind her calm blue eyes lived stories that would never make it to the evening news. Sarah wasn't just another face in the crowd. She was a Navy SEAL, one of the few women ever to wear that trident with pride. For 12 long years, she had walked in the shadows of war, fighting battles that the world would never know about. She'd jumped into black oceans at midnight, crawled through deserts under enemy fire, and carried wounded brothers on her shoulders through the dust and chaos of forgotten missions. But that night, she wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a legend. She was just Sarah, tired, human, and trying to find a moment of peace that didn't require bravery. The diner was nearly empty. A middle-aged couple sat by the window sharing a slice of pie. An old man at the counter stirred his soup in slow circles, watching the rain like it held old memories. The jukebox hummed a soft country tune that barely reached Sarah's corner. For the first time in weeks, the world felt still. Then the door opened. 3 men stumbled in from the storm, laughing too loud, dripping water onto the floor. They smelled of cheap whiskey and bad decisions. One of them shouted for coffee, another slapped $1 on the counter, and the smallest of them noticed Sarah sitting alone. His grin was crooked. "Well, look at that," he said to his friends. "Sitting all by herself? Maybe she's waiting for company." Sarah didn't even look up. She had been trained to control her reactions to measure calm when the air got thick with tension, but their laughter grew louder. The tallest of the 3, a man in a leather jacket, swaggered over and leaned against her table. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, his words slurred but sharp. "You look lonely. Why don't we keep you company?" Sarah looked up slowly, her expression unreadable. Her voice was soft, but every syllable carried quiet authority. "Please walk away." The man smirked. "Walk away? Come on, I'm just being friendly." Her gaze drifted to the window again, where the rain glowed under the streetlights. "Sir," she said evenly, "you don't want to do this?" Her calm only made him angrier. His pride swelled, drunk on attention. "Do what?" he shouted, and before anyone could stop him, he swung his elbow. It cracked across her cheek, knocking her head sideways. The diner froze. The couple gasped. The old man's spoon clattered to the counter. Only the rain kept moving. Sarah didn't move for 3 seconds. Then she lifted her head. The soft blue of her eyes was gone, replaced by steel. In one swift motion, she rose, caught his wrist, and twisted. The crack of bone echoed off the diner walls. She spun, slammed him face down on the table, and pinned him there before his friends even understood what had happened. The second man lunged. She ducked. His fist hit the wall. Her boot struck his knee, and he went down screaming. The third grabbed a chair, but she seized it first, swinging it sideways and knocking him off his feet. The fight was over in 10 seconds. The men groaned on the floor. The air smelled of rain and fear. The waiter stood frozen, holding his notepad like a weapon he didn't know how to use. The old man at the counter whispered, "Lord have mercy." Sarah's breathing slowed. Her face was calm again, though a thin streak of blood traced her lip. "It's over," she said quietly. Moments later, the manager burst from the kitchen. "What the hell happened?" he demanded. Sarah pointed at the men on the floor. "They made a mistake. Police sirens cut through the rain soon after. Officers took statements, and witnesses told the story. When they asked for her ID, Sarah handed it over without a word. One officer looked at the seal on her card and blinked. Then, with quiet respect, he straightened and saluted. "Ma'am," he said, "thank you for your service." She didn't press charges. She just wanted to leave. As she stepped back into the rain, one officer called after her. "You really are a legend, aren't you?" Sarah smiled faintly and walked into the storm. By morning, the story had spread through the naval base like wildfire. Some called her a hero. Others said she went easy on them. But Sarah didn't care for either label. She knew the truth. Real victory isn't in how hard you hit. It's in how much control you hold. 2 days later, the man who had hit her showed up at the base gate. His arm was in a sling. He stood in the pouring rain until Sarah came out. His voice trembled when he spoke. "Ma'am, I came to apologize. I was drunk. Stupid. I didn't know who you were." Sarah's eyes were calm. "You don't need to apologize to a Navy SEAL," she said. "You need to apologize to the woman you hurt that night." Tears filled his eyes. "I know. I just wanted to thank you for not destroying me when you could have. You were right. I didn't want to do that." She nodded once. "Next time you see someone quiet," she said, "remember, they might be stronger than you can imagine." Months passed. Sarah transferred to a new unit for her final training cycle before retirement. Her team respected her deeply, but they also sensed the distance in her eyes. Every night when the barracks went silent, she would sit alone, staring into the dark. Her mind returned to the night in Afghanistan when Lieutenant James Cole, her closest friend, had died in an ambush. Before his last breath, he told her, "Matthews, promise me, don't fight every battle. Some wars end when you choose peace." Those words became her compass. Maybe that was why she had spared those men. Maybe that was the real mission. When retirement came, she moved to a small coastal town and opened a gym for veterans and young recruits. She taught them discipline, restraint, and respect. She never mentioned medals or missions, and she never told anyone about that night in the diner. One morning, Sarah found an envelope in her mailbox. No name, no return address. Inside was a letter written in neat handwriting. "Dear Sarah, you may not remember me, but I will never forget you. I was the man who hurt you that night. Since then, I've changed my life. I quit drinking. I joined a veterans recovery program. You showed me what true strength looks like. You've saved me in more ways than one. Respectfully, Daniel Reed." Sarah read it 3 times. She sat on her porch watching the sun break through the clouds. For the first time in years, she felt peace, not the kind that comes from order, but from forgiveness. She whispered, "Maybe this was the mission I was meant for." That evening, she visited the memorial wall near the beach. The black stone shimmered under the fading light. She found Cole's name and rested her palm against it. "You were right," she whispered. "Some wars end when you choose peace." A tear slipped down her cheek, but her smile was steady. Months later, the diner owner received his own letter from Daniel Redicek and a note that said, "For the damage I caused, and for the lesson I learned. That woman didn't just save me. She saved everyone who will hear her story." The owner framed it near the door with a small plaque that read, "Never mistake kindness for weakness." Years went by. One day, a young girl walked into Sarah's gym holding a worn photograph. "My dad was a SEAL," she said shyly. "He died overseas. I want to be like him." Sarah looked at the photo. Her breath caught. It was Lieutenant Cole. She smiled softly. "Then you already are," she said. "You have his courage." From that day, Sarah trained the girl like her own daughter. Together, they ran along the shoreline at dawn and saluted the waves each night. Sarah had finally found her peace knot in battle. But in passing on strength, one quiet evening, she stood by the ocean, the moonlight rippling across the water. She thought about her journey, the missions, the scars, the people she lost, and the forgiveness she found. For all of them, she whispered to the wind, "For peace." The waves rolled in gently, carrying her words into the dark. And somewhere, perhaps far away, someone whispered them back, because that's what real heroes do. They fight when they must. They forgive when they can, and they leave behind lessons that never fade. So, my friends, if this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Real Mission Stories, where we keep alive the tales the world must never forget. Stories of courage. Stories of respect. Stories that remind us that true strength isn't about power. It's about character.